Yes, Geordies, welcome back to another episode. Hope everyone's well. And let's get the elephant out of the room. What's happening in my face? Truth be told, I've got absolutely no idea. I just woke up like this. So obviously, Newcastle United's abysmal transfer window is stressing us out and giving us nightmares that I'm actually going crazy in my sleep, because that's the only thing I can put it down to. But that is the honest truth. I woke up with it. I haven't been fighting with lions. I'm not that tough, but yeah. So let's get that out of the room. Secondly, I want to talk about this video because we are going to do a little bit of a scout report, but not go into too much detail. But firstly, I want to say thank you to everybody, because yesterday I did it like a different kind of video. I did not a scout report. I just talk about Newcastle United's recruitment, and I was honest about our transfer window and what we've done behind the scenes over the past year, and it generally went down a treat. I was expecting to get a lot of stick in the comments for what I was saying, but honestly, it seemed like the majority of you guys agreed with it. So you can kind of see what I was thinking. And what I'm trying to say to you guys is that we need to take things into perspective and take things as they come, because not everything is going to be smooth and sailing, is what I'm saying. And now, talking about smooth and sailing, we've been linked to Nicholas Jackson. Talk to me, guys, please, because honestly, I've done a lot of scout reports on strikers throughout these past couple of weeks. Nicholas Jackson is a one striker that I haven't done one on, that I've wanted to do one on. And the reason being is because I have not seen a guy divide opinion so much in Nicholas Jackson. I put this tweet out earlier this morning, and I said Nicholas Jackson, Newcastle United, is really starting to gather some momentum. What's everybody's thoughts? Because I'm generally curious, because when I speak about I respect your opinion just as much as my own, like everybody respects their own opinion, I generally respect yours. And wow, Nicholas Jackson divides opinions. Some people saying it's an absolute no-go at no cost. Some people saying 80 million is too much, which I absolutely agree with. Some people saying they would take him 40 million because Eddie Howe can improve him. Some people saying he's just absolutely shocking. Some people saying there's a player in there that just needs to get that consistency out of him. Like, I've not seen a player divide a fan base, or even two fan bases, because I had a lot of Chelsea comments in that post as well. And wow, this player divides opinion. So I'm desperate to look at his strengths, look at his stats, look at his weaknesses, how he compares to Alexander Isak, and what he would bring differently, if not the same, Alexander Isak. So if you want to see that video, let me know in the comments, because if you do, I'll make it for tomorrow. Just as I'm recording this video, you probably heard me phone go off. Benjamin Sesko has just been given the here we go from Fabrizio Romano to Manchester United. Now, he would have been absolutely loving writing that post. He would have a little smug look on his face, and that's what drives us. So tomorrow I might have another scratch on my face. If I do, you know why. I've been stressed in my sleep or something. But we are going to talk about somebody that we have been linked with. Now, the reason why I want to start talking about these is because I think our mindset is focusing on striker, all because of Alexander Isak. We've got a squad to build. We've got Champions League to qualify for. We've got so many games to compete in next season that we've got to build this squad. One position that we do need to strengthen is a right centre-back. And one position that we have been linked to is Malick Thiaw of Milan. Now, this is not the first time we've been linked to these players, but we're going to move on with this episode because Newcastle United do need to strengthen our squad. We've got a bleak squad. We generally have a squad that's good enough to compete with anybody, but we generally need to start filling out this squad, because remember last time when we got into Champions League, we went 12 games starting the same 11, whether that be Champions League, Premier League, back after back. Those guys just run their socks off and run their energy into the ground, and they were given everything, and that's all you can ask for. But sometimes too much football is too much football, and we lacked rotation, and it really harmed us in the Champions League and the Premier League that season. So we need to build our depth. We've got our starting 11 is good enough to compete with anybody, and I stand by that. Our midfield is probably the best midfield in terms of complementary in the Premier League. They complement each other very, very good, and our starting 11 is capable of beating anybody, and I stand by that. Where we do suffer is when we get injuries and players need resting and players get tired. We've got no strength and quality to come on and continue our momentum. So we need more squad fillers in the squad, but you don't want to sign anybody. You need squad fillers that have quality. And that leads us on to Malick Thiaw, because there's been a lot of talk about Malick Thiaw. He nearly moved to Como. He rejected the move because he wants to play in the Champions League or European football at least. And Milan accepted a £25 million bid from Como. But since then, he's actually impressed in pre-season, and they're asking for more money. Of course they will. As soon as Newcastle United say they're interested, Milan's price goes up. So let's break down what you can expect from Malick Thiaw. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is tactical flexibility, because we all know Eddie Howe changed his system slightly against different oppositions last season. Went with 3 at the back, or a 5 at the back, if you want to call it that, against Arsenal and Tottenham. We won both the games, so he's probably sitting there thinking, that's worked well for us. But my advice would be, don't come away from your 4-3-3 system, because that is your tried and tested. That is your bread and butter. That is what's got you to this position. So let's look at Malick Thiaw in a back 3 and a back 4. So in both systems, you need wide coverage. So your outside centre backs must defend wide areas, covering behind the wing backs or full backs if they advance forward. So that requires pace, agility, and comfort in isolation situations. And then in the build-up phase, your centre back often initiates build-up when you're playing a back 3 or a back 5. When you're playing a back 4, the both can more than comfortable in possession to play through the lines. But all 3 have to be crucially comfortable in possession. Now, what Malick Thiaw like in a back 4, he's really comfortable actually. This way he progresses through the ranks inside a back 4 structure. In fact, his aggressive profile suits a back 4 system, especially when he's paired with a positionally disciplined partner. Now, keep that in mind. Now, why does he also excel in the back 3? Because he's excellent at reading the game and breaking up play, which is crucial when you're in a system that stretches horizontally. Now, in my preference in a back 3, I prefer him centrally, but that's Sven Botman's position. Now, out the two, if I was to choose who plays wide and who plays centrally, I think I'd rather Malick Thiaw play wide and Sven Botman stay centrally. Now, the next thing I want to do is look at how his games evolved over the years. Now, when he first broke through with Schalke, he never really got in possession, and that's because Schalke aren't a possession-heavy team. But when he moved to Milan, that was where he was able to show his true qualities in possession, and you can see visually the key difference, and that is in possession. The blue is obviously him at Milan. The red is obviously him at Schalke in the Bundesliga. And the difference is night and day. Schalke had done a lot of defending. That's why he ranks highly on tackles and interceptions. But as you can see, in possession, he's super, super calm, comfortable in possession. So let's break down some of his strengths. And I want to start by some of his defending strengths first. So what's he like as a defender? Well, he's proactive. He's tackling, intercepting, and reading of the play. That's what we're going to break down. And in fact, he excels at reading the play. That's one of his biggest strengths. His excellent anticipation allows him to defend aggressively without relying solely on disciplined reactive tackles. So what I mean by that is Malick Thiaw often wants to move up and win the ball back as early and as high as possible. Now, that's one key thing to remember, because what do we do in our defensive system? Usually we go to a man-to-man press, and you usually see either Fabian Shaw or Dan Burns stepping into midfield to win the ball back. That counts as a proactive defender. That is exactly what Malick Thiaw brings. So when it comes to fitting into Eddie Howe's philosophy and ideology, he ticks that box. And that's highlighted in his numbers. He's averaging 7.32 defensive duels per 90, which is absolutely insane, with a success rate of 71.26, which again was really high numbers, as well as 5.22 aerial duels per 90 with a success rate of 54.62. I mean, those numbers alone tell you that he's super comfortable in combative situations. He's got a nice profile. He stands at 6'4". He's wide, he's strong, he's physical, and he doesn't mind engaging with attackers. Now, what I really like about Malick Thiaw is his mindset. He doesn't allow the opponents or attackers any space at all. He typically likes to get touch tight to unsettle opponents, ensuring they can't turn freely, and also not allowing them to create any separation to cleanly execute their actions. So what he's very good at is stopping the opposition's momentum. So when it comes to breaking up transitional play or going to win the ball back early, Malick Thiaw is definitely somebody that you want in your system. So he's comfortable being that front-footed defender, which is exactly what Newcastle need in a man-to-man pressing system. Thiaw's ball reading and tactical understanding is one of the highest qualities. Now, what else does Eddie Howe need in his backline? Pace and recovery speed. Well, at 6'4", he's actually unusually quick for his size. Now, one thing I will say, Thiaw isn't a player that possesses elite acceleration. That's one of his weaknesses, actually. But once he gathers momentum, his paces and recovery speed is actually really good. Now, he's got explosive power, but he's not really quick off the mark. But once he builds that explosive power, that's when he really reaches top speed. And that allows him to recover the ball well. And his long legs enable him to eat up the ground very, very quickly, especially for a man of 6'4". So what else on Newcastle United are you looking for? Well, somebody that's comfortable and can play from the back, start that build up and initiate attacks from deeper areas. And that could be what Malick Thiaw brings you. Now, he's not elite, but he's absolutely excellent in my opinion. He's got a pass completion rate of 92%, which is top tier for centre-backs in Serie A. Now, even better, he's averaging 4.1 progressive passes per 90, showing intent to move the ball forward rather than recycle possession, which makes his 92% pass completion rate even more impressive. Now, in possession, Malick Thiaw is very confident and composed with the ball at his feet. He's not perfect, but the signs and growth potential are clear to see. Now, what I really do like about Malick Thiaw, he's comfortable enough to invite pressure. The reason you want to invite pressure, because that opens up space beyond the first line of press. So that gives more room for your midfielders, your attackers to get in possession. And he's actually got a nice variation in his distribution. He passes short, he passes medium, he passes long. However, personally, I want to see more variation and stretch in the game. What I mean by that is, can you beat the first man, beat that middle man and go straight to your attacker, go straight to your number 9, go straight to your number 10, or can you switch the ball early? And by doing that, you open up the game, and that ultimately disrupts your opposition structure. So let's move on to his aerial ability, because that is another area we do need to strengthen in our backline. You would consider Malick Thiaw reliable. He's good, but he's not at the elite level. Now, the first thing you notice is his size, 6'4", he's athletic, got a good leap on him, and that allows him to contest well in the air. His height and his timing make him a useful asset both defensively and offensively during corners and free kicks or crosses, so he can actually have an impact at both ends of the pitch. Now, I was sitting there watching him last night, and sometimes you watch him and you think, yeah, he's really aggressive, he's dominant, he's winning these duels, but then sometimes you sit there and think, where's that player gone? It's just gone missing. His aerial duel percentage is good in 63.5%, but it's not at the elite level. At the elite level, you're somebody like Virgil van Dijk, it's 71.7%. So he definitely shows signs. He just needs a little bit more consistency. But one thing I will say, if I was to trust Malick Thiaw to win as an aerial duel or Fabian Shaw, I'm picking Malick Thiaw all day, every day, and twice on a Sunday. So let's have a look at some of these areas for improvement, because I've said this before about Malick Thiaw, and I've actually made a video before, and that's why I'm not going into too much depth, because I don't want to repeat myself, but there is areas for improvement. Although I love his aggression is one of his biggest assets, and without that, he wouldn't be Malick Thiaw. But his time and tackling, because his aggression is an asset. However, it leads him in misjudging, mistiming challenges. You'll often, I've seen him make so many mistakes for Milan last season, where he was lunging and diving and out of desperation to win the ball, when just a little bit more calculated would just put his defensive qualities on a different level. So he's prone to needless fouls or diving into challenges too early. So that leads us on to my next point, decision making under pressure. Centre backs must be able to make a split decision almost instantly. So when to step out, when to hold, when to cover, when to engage without exposing the back line. And sometimes he gets that decision incorrect. My next area for improvement is agility. While he's deceptively quick once he gathers pace, his first 5 to 10 yards can be sluggish, making him vulnerable against quick transitions or agile forwards. So what I mean by that, he's got a little bit of a slow turning circle. Now, I don't mind him going into those wide areas, because that's where he get isolated and covering for fullbacks. But when he's fixed to the spot, that's when he can be caught out, because he's too flat-footed and too squared on that the winger just knocks a ball past him and moves around him. So if I'm Eddie Howe, I'm looking at that and thinking it's quite difficult to improve somebody's agility by a large amount. So what I would be doing is I would try and improve his body positioning and positioning around the pitch. Next one, concentration. While in the box he's strong, he's got a big presence, he can sometimes improve his spatial awareness and tracking of runners. Sometimes he switches off and he lacks concentration and allows runners to be spare. And my final point is diverse passing. This is something I touched on earlier. I want to see a more expansive passing range. That would just elevate his passing and his ability in possession to an elite level. And I want to talk about his passing for a second, because I'm not saying it's bad, because Malick Thiaw is absolutely exceptional in possession, but I want him to be elite in possession. Do you know what I mean? I want him to get him from, he's about a B at the minute, I want to get him to an A. And you do that by getting him to be a bit more progressive, decisive. He's extremely accurate in his passes, whether that be short, medium, long, which is a big positive. I just want him to be able to spot runners a little bit earlier, and that allows you to break through a little bit easier. And if he has that ability where he can switch play more comfortably, that just opens up the game and stretches the play a lot better. And that allows you to be more chaotic in transitional moments. So just little tweaks like that will just elevate his game to the next level. So next thing I thought is, do you know how I always speak about profiles and partnerships create a successful team? I thought, how could he partner Sven Botman? Because Sven Botman's likely going to be our left centre-back in future. One thing I will say about Malick Thiaw, he's comfortable along the back three. He can play as a left centre-back, he can play as a centre-back, he can play as a right centre-back, so he's comfortable doing those. In fact, he actually played more as a left centre-back for Milan than he did a right centre-back, despite being right-footed. So that just goes show how comfortable he is in different areas of the pitch, which is really pleasing. So if he ever did need to partner Fabian Shaw, for example, he could certainly do that. So let's talk about Malick Thiaw and if he could partner Sven Botman. Well, I actually think they could actually form a high complementary centre-back pairing. Don't forget, before we signed Sven Botman, Milan tried to sign Sven Botman to partner with Malick Thiaw. So simply put, they provide a nice balance. One's right-footed, one's left-footed. That's always good to know. So how do their defensive styles compare? Well, Malick Thiaw is proactive, aggressive, and recovery-based. And Sven Botman's a little bit more reserved. He's a bit more positional anchored and disciplined than what Malick Thiaw does. So one can be your presser, one can be your coverer, which is a nice partnership to have. In possession, I actually think they're both comfortable in possession. One's a bit more line breaking than the other, but they're both comfortable in receiving and being an option in possession. So I actually think together they offer a blend of athleticism, composure, ideal. You want one actively seek out threats like Malick Thiaw can do, and the other to be a bit more calculated in his defensive style, which is what Sven Botman brings. So he'll be the one that reads the game and has more clearances, for example. So how's he compared to Fabian Shaw? Well, this is how he compares Fabian Shaw. And as you can see, Fabian Shaw's averaging more tackles than interceptions, but Malick Thiaw's averaging a lot better in possession. He's completing more passes, he's averaging more progressive passes, he's averaging more progressive carries, and he's averaging more touches, which shows he's more comfortable in supporting the build-up. And how is he compared to Sven Botman? Well, just like I said, Sven Botman would average more blocks and clearances. Malick Thiaw would average more tackles and interceptions. But as you can see, they're both quite good in the air as well. So I actually think for 25 to 30 million, might even be 30 million pounds, it's actually a smart signing. Although there's areas for improvement, there's good profile to work with and somebody that brings a lot of elements to what Eddie Howe is looking for, but also somebody that can complement our other centre-backs. Now, the beauty about it, in what I should mention, is Milan often go into a man-to-man orientated press. So they press just like Newcastle do. So he's already playing a similar setup to what Newcastle do. And I do think that's important. But I want to know from you guys, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. But look, Nicholas Jackson, talk to me. Let us know in the comments, because I've never seen a player divide opinion. Let me know in the comments. But Malick Thiaw, would you have him for 30 million? Possibly about 35 million euros, I'm guessing. Let me know in the comments below, because we all know Eddie Howe likes his tried and tested players that he's analysed for a while, and we have been linked to Malick Thiaw for a long time now. But look, you've listened to what I've got to say. Now it's my time to listen to what you've got to say. Let me know in the comments below. But if you've enjoyed this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And until next time, possibly Nicholas Jackson tomorrow, away the lads.